Keith and I are fishing today on Friday, September 18th on the Michipicoten River, just outside of Wawa, Ontario. And I want to start off by talking about these gloves that I'm wearing. I've only been doing this for about a year, cleaning fish with gloves on. I have a friend of mine, an avid fisherman, who does the same, and when I first saw him do it, I thought, what a girly man way to clean fish. But then when I tried it and I didn't get fish guts and smell in my hands, and I minimized the cuts, I decided to start doing it myself. So this salmon that I caught today in the river was on a silver little Cleo, I think a 2/3 ounce. Got it at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and she weighs about 7.5 pounds, and you can tell it's a naturally reproduced fish because the fin on the back right here, it's called an adipose fin, and it has no particular function today, although millions of years ago I suppose it did. You can tell it's naturally reproducing because if it was a hatchery fish, they would have cut that fin off when it was a fingerling, and then we'd be able to tell. The other details on this one is when you measure a fish, you close the jaw and you measure from the top of the snout. You're supposed to pinch the tail. And for those that care about such things, and if you care about accuracy, which is important for like a master angler or something, which this is not, that's how you get an accurate measurement. So this one comes to just about 28 inches. Very similar in length and weight to yesterday's, or the fish we caught 2 days ago. You can tell this one's a female because the mouth is nice and straight with no hook to the jaw on top or bottom. So there's many ways to clean a fish, but this is the way I've perfected, or I can't really say perfected, but got a good technique down. I start off with the fish to the left with the belly towards me. I cut in behind the gill plate down to just below the pectoral fin, and down the fish to just above the anus. My guess was correct, it's a female, and there are the bright eggs. And I'm going to pull those out, and we're going to use those later for bait, trying to catch them later on. So flip the fish over, same thing, cut behind the pectoral fin at an angle up the skull as far as you can. Leave the belly meat in and cut down to just short of the anus. And that way you leave it connected. That helps the head not to flop around when filleting it. Now I'm cutting along the spine, cutting through the lateral bones, but not cutting through the rib cage. The lateral bones end right about where the anus is, as does the rib cage. So when you get down to the area where the rib cage and lateral bones end, now you can plunge the knife through and cut straight through on the meat. Then you can pick the fish up like it's swimming and cut down until you see the rib cage, and just roll the blade along the rib cage. You may have to cut through the lateral bones that you didn't cut through the first time. If I was cleaning on a cutting board where I could stand upright, I would have already been done with this fillet and I would have gotten more meat. But when you're in the bush, a good place to clean is on moss. It helps keep the dirt off and it gives you a soft place for your knees to land. For example, you see I missed a little bit of meat right there. That would have happened on a cutting board. And number one fillet is now done. And you'll notice all the rib meat, or the rib meat is there, but the ribs are gone. Now when you flip it over, as a right-handed person, I have to flip them around because to try to do the same thing on the second side has never worked for me. So this time I grab it by the tail, cut down, and go all the way through till you get to the anus, and then it's just a reverse. You bring the blade halfway up, saw along, cutting through the lateral bones but not cutting through the rib cage. Once that's been done, you come in and do the same thing to this one. If you're a left-handed person, I would recommend you do the exact same technique that I did, but everything would be a mirror opposite. The second fillet typically comes out nicer for me because the first fillet is gone and the fish lays flatter. So if you'll notice, I cleaned this fillet a little quicker, wasted a little less meat. And you could argue the fillet even looks a little prettier. And that's the Joe the Jarhead way of cleaning a fish.
And what do you do with the remainder?
The remainder, some laws say that to put them in the river because it helps the ecosystem. And some states and countries say dispose of them by burying them in a hole or throwing them off in the woods so something can eat them because they don't like the sight of them. So from a practical sense, I think they belong in the stream because it's good for the ecosystem. But in Canada, you can't throw them in the water, the law says so. I'm going to toss it off in the bushes and hopefully a raccoon or some other animal will eat it. If not, it'll decompose and go into the soil.
All right.
And here we go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.